The Everlast Powerlock and the Everlast Elite gloves are two very popular entry to mid-level boxing gloves made by Everlast. Now there's some pros and cons to each, and I'll kind of go over that and some things that I like and dislike about both. Between the two, right off the bat, if you're trying to decide between the two, my recommendation would be the Everlast Powerlock. Now, one thing I would say, especially if you're newer to boxing, you're considering between these two, is you should always be wrapping your wrists. And we'll talk about the wrist support here in a second. Make sure that you are keeping your wrists wrapped up so that you prevent any sort of injuries to your hands or any sort of, when you make impact, that your wrist isn't going back and hurting that joint. Now, the Everlast Powerlock, again, is my choice for a few reasons. The first is you can get a little bit more of a snug closure around your wrist. It has this kind of hook and loop closure where it kind of goes through and then wraps back around. It's easier to get a little bit more torque and make sure it's nice and tight around your wrist versus on the Elite, where it just kind of comes around one way and that's all you get. This is fine. This is better. The other thing I really like about these Powerlocks is the material that lines the inside of the glove is much softer. You'll see over here on the Elites, it kind of, it's hard to tell, obviously you can't feel it. It has kind of more of like a plasticky, I don't even know what you would call this, polyester type of material, whereas this is a little bit softer. I don't know exactly what the material is, but the thing that I've been really impressed with is I've had these for about 6 months and trained in them fairly regularly, and they get really sweaty. They have never, ever stunk, and I've never done anything special with these. I haven't had these as long. These are just kind of basic bag gloves. The verdict's out on how long they last, but this material is definitely more uncomfortable than this material. The other thing that I've been impressed with so far with these Powerlocks is they hold up better than a lot of the other training and bag gloves that are kind of in this beginner to mid-level genre. I had some other gloves in the past where the seam started coming apart here and around this little strap that connects the thumb to the rest of the glove. These have held up great. You can see there's quite a bit of marks on here. Again, I use these all the time and I've never once had an issue. These are a little softer, a little more pliable, but that could also be because I use these more often than I've used these. The one thing that I don't like about the Powerlock, and you should consider this if you have weak wrists or if you are new to boxing and are really concerned about hurting your wrists or you've had previous wrist injuries, is this doesn't give you a ton of wrist support. Some of the higher end gloves out there have a little bit more support along the top here to prevent from when you hit your wrist doing this. Again, if you're wrapping up with good wraps, you shouldn't have to worry about it as much. I don't think it's as much of an issue as long as you're wrapped up properly. But just know that if you're somebody that really needs that wrist support, these aren't going to provide a ton of that. Whereas with these Elites, it does a little bit better, I think. You can see here how thick this padding is all the way back here on the wrist. Personally, I think that's uncomfortable, but if you're somebody that has to really be cognizant of protecting your wrists, this might be something that's a little bit better for you. As you can see, it doesn't flex as much. You definitely have a little bit more support as far as that goes. I haven't used these as long, so I'm assuming that these will hold up okay, but the verdict's still out on that. I can't speak to that. But all in all, between the two, if you are kind of a beginner, if you are somebody that is looking to get into boxing, or maybe you've been doing it for a little bit and you need a new pair of gloves, between the two, I would recommend the Powerlock, but you're probably not going to go wrong with the Elite either.